So an old Wild West fort knew that an attack was coming, and they wanted to best prepare themselves of how to handle to defend themselves. And so the wily old general sent for his trusty Indian scout, saying to him, you got to use all your skill, all your know-how, every little trick you've got to try and help us estimate what kind of attack we're going to have so we can protect ourselves. And so the trusty Indian scout did a little prayer. Then he laid down and he put his ear to the ground. And after a couple of seconds said, large war party, maybe 300 brave warriors, 4 chiefs, 2 on black stallions, 2 on white stallions. All have war paint, many, many, many guns. Medicine man also with them. And the general says, that's amazing. You can tell all that by just listening to the ground? And the scout says, no, General, I could see under the gate. All right. So Thomas Edison said this. He said, if we did all the things we are capable of doing, we would literally astound ourselves. Could you imagine me telling better jokes than I'm capable of doing? How astounded you would be. So how many people here know that there is so much more in you that you are capable of doing that you have not allowed yourself to do yet? How many people would? And how many people know if you had your life to live over again up until this point, you would achieve more a second time around than you have attracted and experienced now? And how about this? How many people have at least one area of your life where you know you are not giving it your all, that you really could give more effort and put more into it? And this isn't to make us feel depressed. It's actually to make us feel really good, to make us realize how much potential there is within us, how much brilliance, how much greatness, how much goodness, how much love, how much creativity is still in us, but we don't always use it. You know, life is kind of a lock, a combination lock, when we're trying to figure out the right numbers and the right sequence to unlock the potential that's in us, to unlock the creative wisdom and genius, to bring forth our most authentic self, you know, the most loving being we could be, and to live the most fulfilling and meaningful life. And so this is the third of our series called The Principles of Success, which we're trying to use to help unlock this incredible potential for a fuller and richer life. And I believe that regardless of what we want to do in life, there are certain principles of success that are the foundation and underlie all true and lasting happiness and success. First week, we talked about the foundational principle of developing a peaceful mind. The mind's a powerful thing, but sometimes it can worry and be distracted and focus on a lot of negativity. So developing a peaceful mind that is more calm, that is more open, that is more positive, that handles situations better, and it tends to be more creative. It's an important thing to have a peaceful mind. It's the foundation. Last week, we talked about the second principle, and that is to take 100% responsibility for your life. We sometimes waste our time complaining and blaming and giving our power away, and we need to not use our energy negatively against us. We need to reclaim our power. Responsibility isn't a burden. It's empowering and owning that we have the choice. We have the abilities. And one of the biggest responsibilities is to get clear on what it is that you want to have and create in your life. You know, everybody wants success, but we often miss the opportunities because opportunities come to us dressed in overalls and they look like hard work. You know, the truth is success in anything requires hard work. That's just the fact. And it's not just hard work, but we need to lean into that work and do it wholeheartedly. We need to invest our spirits and our hearts into whatever it is that we're doing, that we want to achieve. You know, we need to be engaged and embrace it. How many people have ever done something half-heartedly? Anybody ever do something half-heartedly? Ever do something with somebody and they were doing it half-heartedly? Or you ever do mostly put your effort in, but you're always holding back? Or you know anybody that's always holding a little something back and not giving fully of themselves? We have this fear of giving ourselves wholeheartedly, of leaning fully into whatever it is, because at some level we think we might lose ourselves. We might get consumed or drained or burned out Or if we put too much effort in one area, we'll ignore some other important area. And that's not it at all. It is about fully leaning into putting all of ourselves in the things we need to do when we are doing them. Ralph Waldo Emerson once said, "Nothing great was ever achieved without enthusiasm." And we could easily say nothing great was ever achieved without leaning fully into it. I bet every single one of us has an area in our lives that we could lean into a little more, that we can invest more of ourselves and live and do it more wholeheartedly. Today we're looking at principle 3, and that is to lean in all the way. And the first thing we need to lean into is we got to lean into doing the work. How many people have ever wanted something, but you let the fact that you discovered it took hard work made you change your mind and do something else? Anybody let hard work scare you off a little bit? It's like, I want that. Oh, that much work? No, I'll do something else, thanks. Behind every bit of success and every great achievement, there is a story of hard work. There is a story of effort and dedication and practice and training and education and discipline and determination. You know, we can think and plan and organize and get all our ducks in a row and get ready, but the truth is the only thing that will ever create progress and success is when we do the work, when we take action and when we set things in motion. You could talk all you want about how great exercise is. Oh, I'll get so healthy, I'll have all kinds of energy, it'll be so good for me. We could talk about it all day long, but exercise does not help unless you do it, unless you take action. I mean, it's just the fact. Einstein said nothing happens till something moves. In the book of James, it says, be doers of the word, not just hearers, and you'll be blessed in your doing. James also said, faith without works is dead. And what they're all trying to say is that action causes things to happen. When you begin to move, there is positive energy, there's a greater momentum, things begin to shift and change and come alive in us and our circumstances. But we must be willing to do the work. Tagore had a beautiful line. He said, you cannot cross the sea by merely staring at the water. Although we wish it could be that easy. Everything in life you want to succeed in takes work. I remember years ago I wanted to get into doing rental properties. I had some friends who were very successful at it. So I started reading and buying books about rental properties. And my 3 friends, I would interview them. And I think I interviewed them several times. I think on the 3rd or 4th interview with one friend, I was asking him more and more questions. He said, you just need to stop. He said, you need to buy a house and rent it. You will learn more buying a house and renting it in 6 months than you will of 5 years of studying about it and thinking about it. And so, thanks to my dad who co-signed the loan, I bought it, and boy, did I make some mistakes. Really, really dumb, horrible mistakes, but I learned because I was in the arena doing the work and doing my best, gaining some wisdom and knowledge and experience. Nothing wrong with mistakes. Is if you're doing the work, you will continue to get better. I owned the property for almost 10 years, and it was a great success, but it wouldn't have worked if I wasn't willing to jump in and start taking action and doing the work. You know, Pete Rose once said, the harder I work, the luckier I get. And the truth is, the harder you work, you'll get more understanding, more confidence, more wisdom. Things will get better, but you have to do the work. One of the great examples I always think of seeing the evidence and the importance of work is with Olympic athletes. You know, we just saw the Olympics. I watched a whole bunch of snowboarding and stuff. It was really, really cool. Here's an interesting study that the average Olympian trains 4 hours a day for 310 days a year for 6 years before getting to the Olympics. That is a lot of work, but they're willing to put the work in. They're willing to do it. Bruce Jenner, who won the 1976 gold medal in the decathlon, said this, I learned that the only way that you are going to get anywhere in life is to work hard at it. Whether you're a musician, a writer, an athlete, a businessman, there is no getting around it. You have to do the work. Stephen King, the great novelist, wrote this. He said, talent is cheaper than table salt. What separates the talented individual from the successful one is a lot of work. And finally, Oprah said, there is no secret that whatever it is you want, you can have it, but only if you're willing to do the work. that book after the 4 Gospels in the Bible? What's that called? The book of Acts, correct. But notice they have the 4 Gospels, which means the good news. So it's good news, but the good news isn't beneficial unless we use the book of Acts, that we take the actions. So my question is, what do you want to create and have an experience in your life? But the bigger question is, are you willing to do the work for it? Are you willing to invest yourself into it? Are you willing to do it wholeheartedly and literally just lean into it? To do whatever it takes to learn, study, grow, try, experiment, whatever it is. Because anything it is that you could possibly want, to be healthier and be fit, to have a better relationship, greater finances, deal with an addiction, learn to speak a new language, go and get a degree, whatever it is, it takes work. The question is, are you willing to do the work? What area of your life is calling for you to give more effort to it and to invest yourself more in it? To lean into the work means to be committed to doing the work, but there's another thing. It's not just the work, but it's to work with intention. Some people call it deliberate work. Arnold Schwarzenegger said an interesting thing. He said, you could do certain exercises in lifting weights, and it's going to benefit you. But what will benefit you even more is to work with intention. That when you're lifting, you are lifting with the intention that you are getting stronger. That every muscle, you focus your mind and attention with the action. And he said something like it's 3 times more effective. I don't know what the number is, but I think we'd all agree that working with intention absolutely makes a difference. Erickson had a theory called the 10,000 hour theory, and it's the idea that it takes about 10,000 hours to become a genius in something. It seems overwhelming, but what he's saying is that over time, and the principle, it isn't just work and it isn't time, it's work with intention. Over time, changes and transform things. You can get better and you can reach levels of success and greatness, but you have to be willing to lean into it and give it your all. When it says faith without works, well, what he's saying is faith and works go hand in hand. You have to do the inner work of tuning in to your faith and having it expand, and do the outer work of the actions. You have to do both of them. That's what brings things to life. So what do you want enough in your life that you're willing to work for it? That you're willing to work with intention, that you're willing to work with effort, that you're committed to it and you're willing to do it over time. Because the truth is, the elevator to success is broken. You have to take the stairs. You got to do the work and you got to lean into the work. The next one is you got to lean in beyond your comfort zone. Here's what Michelangelo said. Sistine Chapel, the statue of David, Michelangelo. He said, the greatest danger for most of us is not aiming too high and missing. It is aiming too low and reaching it. He said the greatest danger in life is not to fail, it's not to fall, but it's to play it safe. It's to play small. It is to never risk, to never reach beyond your grasp, to never take a chance, to never dare, but to consciously and consistently choose to play small, to stay in your comfort zone in all areas of your life. Thoreau shares his consequence, and he said the consequence and the danger of playing safe is coming to the end of your life and realize you hadn't really lived. You didn't live the life you came to live. You didn't do the things you came to do. One of my favorite biblical stories is the one where Jesus sent the disciples in the boat ahead of him. And then there was a storm, and they got all freaked out and scared, and they saw Jesus walking on the water. And Peter said, if it's you, Jesus, call me. And so he calls him out, and he steps out of the boat, and Peter initially stays on the water and walking on it, and then he gets freaked out and scared, and he starts sinking. And he calls to Jesus to scare him, to save him. And he did scare him too. But and then Jesus said of him, and right after that, "O ye of little faith." But then later he said of Peter, you're the rock upon which I'll build my church. And here's why. Because Peter was willing to step out of the boat of his faith, to step out, to go beyond. And when you step out of your comfort zone, something amazing happens in you. It changes you. It expands you. If you really look at it, all of Jesus' ministry was to stretch people from thinking, stretch their hearts, stretch their awareness, stretch their faith, stretch their love. When Jesus said he was without sin, cast the first stone, because they had that tradition of stoning someone, who committed adultery or other crimes. And so he wanted to stretch their minds to compassion, to kindness, to faith, to believing in greater things. Gay Hendricks has a concept that I really love that I use, and he says, every one of us suffers from a ULP, an upper limit problem. Every one of us has some limit and think, I couldn't experience that much success, that much responsibility, that much money, or that much love. Every one of us, we have it, whether we think or not. We have a limit in certain areas, or we just can't seem to break through that glass ceiling. And our work is to stretch beyond what we currently believe for ourselves, to move beyond it, to expand ourselves in greater ways. Neil Donald Walsh says, life begins at the end of your comfort zone. So my question for you is, where in your life are you being called to stretch? Where in your life are you being called to expand? Where in your life are you being called to love deeper? Where in your life are you being asked to step out of your comfort zone, to try something new, to live more boldly or daringly, or to step into a higher and greater version of yourself? Where is life calling you to dream bigger? So many years ago, most of you know I was paralyzed in a car accident. And, for a long time, I focused on things I couldn't do, and I was scared to do a whole bunch of stuff. In my first year when I was an associate minister in North Carolina, they had this little unity gathering, and we all had to share about ourselves, about something you'd like to try. And I said, I'd like to try skydiving. And then afterwards, a guy came up to me and said, hey, I'm the captain of the U.S. skydiving team. I didn't even know they had a U.S. skydiving team. And he said, I could take you this afternoon if you want. And I was like, well, you know what, blah, 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 blah. Freak me out, man. Took me 3 months to get the courage to go. And it was tandem. I was attached to somebody who was 14,000 feet up in the air, and I'm getting queasy. I'm having second thoughts. I think, what was I thinking? And so they start walking me out, and I'm trying to tell the guy, no, stop. But he couldn't hear me. Jumped out of the plane, 14,000 feet. Surreal, totally surreal. And then when the canopy deployed, it was so peaceful and quiet. Looking out on the world, it was incredible. And I don't know how many minutes that lasted, but it was absolutely amazing. Came down, did our landing. And when I was driving home, I just started to cry. I just started to weep because I never thought I'd do a whole bunch of stuff, particularly something like that. And what was amazing for it wasn't just about skydiving, but going beyond your comfort zone helps you break through fear. Because we all hold ourselves back in some way. We all limit ourselves in some way. And so anytime we stretch beyond our comfort zone, it's not just the thing we're doing. It's we're breaking through a deeper level of fear of what holds us back from truly living. So what is your comfort zone stretch right now? It could be just saying no and setting a boundary in a relationship that hasn't been healthy. It could be saying yes to some opportunities that scare you. It could be being more honest with yourself about what's really going on and telling your family or the most important people what's happening with you. Maybe it's to move. Maybe it's to go back home. I don't know what it is. But I guarantee you there's something calling you to stretch. Something calling you to move out of your comfort zone. Because the more we're willing to do that, guess what? We discover more of what's in here. We unbottle and unlock the brilliance and the potential and the incredible individuals we came here to be. But you got to be willing to lean in to stretching beyond your comfort zone. The final one is we got to lean into enjoying our life now, enjoying the journey now. Culturally, we're kind of trained that I'll be happy when I get rich. I'll be happy when I get that promotion. I'll be happy when I lose that weight. I'll be happy when I meet that person. We've got all kinds of things. I'll be happy when I get a new hairdo. I'll be happy on whatever we think. And we keep deferring happiness. We keep deferring our lives until something other than what's going on happens, and we don't need to do that. We can beat the rush and be happy now. Be happy now and be happy along the way, not just waiting to some end, because if we can't be happy now, I guarantee you we probably won't be that happy then either. We got to practice being happy now. Anybody remember that Seinfeld when the serenity now? The serenity now. And we should probably just enjoy life now. Enjoy it now. Enjoy it now. Remind ourselves to enjoy our lives right now. Here are 3 things we can do to lean into enjoying our lives now. And the first one is to appreciate life now. What do you appreciate about your life right now? What are the things that are going well? What are the ways you feel blessed and supported? What are the things that you enjoy? And what do you appreciate about yourself now? What are the things that you're handling well? What are the talents and gifts that you're making a difference in the world? Appreciating your life. In 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, it says, in all things give thanks, for this is God's will for you. And God's will for you is that you give thanks and acknowledge and appreciate how wonderful your life is. It may not be perfect all the time, but there's a lot of things to celebrate and rejoice and give thanks in. Appreciate your life now. Appreciate yourself now. Let me ask you this question. What's stopping you right at this very moment from being joyful, being thankful, and happy? I would suggest nothing except your own permission of letting yourself be joyful, thankful, and happy now, and appreciating your life now. The second one is to love up the people in your life now. It doesn't matter how much success or how much money we have. If we don't have love, if we don't have healthy relationships, if we don't feel cared for and cherish and care for other people, we are missing the essence of a full and happy life. You are probably more loved than you realize. We probably all are. Sometimes we need to remember and tell the people in our lives how much we love them and tell them the difference that they are making. I think I told you that my brother, Derek, the oldest of the 10 of us, has got pancreatic cancer in stage 4. It's really progressing. The tumors are growing. He's getting weaker, losing weight and all that stuff. But I'll tell you, one thing I really appreciate about my family is that we're all sticking together and enjoying our time with him as much as possible. We flew from all kinds of different places in January. We had a Zoom birthday party, phone calls. We're doing all kinds of stuff. The ones who can be there are sending videos. He was dancing, and they were eating and drinking the other day. I mean, it was really cool. I'm really proud to see that. And I wrote him a note, and I said, more than anything else, if this is the time for you to go, the one thing I hope you realize is how loved you are, how much we really love you, and how much we've enjoyed your love. For whatever time we have left, let's just keep celebrating love. And nobody's got to be dying for that. That's in our lives every single day. We just need to remember, enjoy the journey by loving up the people who love you now. And the last one, to enjoy the journey now and to lean into it, is to laugh and lighten up a little bit. In the Psalms, it says, he will fill your mouths with laughter and your lips with shouts of joy. Life ain't easy, but I believe life is supposed to be fun. And we're the ones who give ourselves permission to not take it too seriously, to laugh, to rejoice, and to just lighten up. I've got a little plaque on my desk, and it says, life is crazy good. And I really believe, somebody once said that people don't grow old, people don't stop laughing because they grow old because they stop laughing. And so we need to laugh at ourselves, laugh at life, and laugh at some really good jokes. What a coincidence. I happen to have one. These 3 guys die and all go to heaven, and they're at pearly gates, and St. Peter says, what would you like people to say when you're in your casket? And the first guy said, I would like them to say I was a good doctor, that I was a good man, and I helped everybody that I could help. Second one says, well, in my casket, what I want people to say is that I was a great teacher and a great father. I was a great husband. And I especially was very kind to children. And then to the third guy, I said, what would you like? He said, well, in my casket, I'd like people to say, look, he's moving. He's moving. Life is a great gift. It's not easy and it's not simple. It does take work. A friend of mine, Bob Kaler, says on the day you were born, you were given the opportunity of a lifetime. And the question is, what are you doing with your opportunity of a lifetime? How are you living this gift of life? We all want to be successful. We all want to be happy, and we can be. But we got to do the work. Lean into the work. Lean into stretching beyond your comfort zone, and lean into enjoying and appreciating your life and loving the people in it right now. You can have it all. The question is, are you willing to lean in all the way? God bless you all.